This evening, Mayor Rorak is a little under the weather. He's got some back issues, so he won't be here. So Scott Wood, the chairman, will help me, and we'll co-chair the meeting tonight. And we'll jump right in. We've got a couple of little presentations, but not a lot tonight. So the first order of business will be the approval of the December 15th to 25 minutes. Anybody?
So moved.
So moved. Okay, you have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the first order of business, we're gonna have an update on the RAC, and I'm gonna call on Angus Jennings to do it for us.
Angus, why don't you sit where Chris should be and
Sure.
sit, there's a microphone.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to provide an update. The Regional Agreement Amendment Committee has been meeting monthly since mid-December. I think it's been a really good process. I'll just sketch out briefly where we've been and where we're going. Our next meeting is tomorrow morning. So we formally organized in December, and we've met, I think, in January, February, March, and April 1st. So tomorrow will be our sixth meeting since we organized. And the first thing that we did is we gathered kind of a universe of existing regional agreements from other regional school districts in Massachusetts. That included some older agreements along the lines of Whittier's existing agreement, as well as some more modern that had been adopted in the last 5 or 10 years. We gathered all those together, put them in a kind of a cloud server, and invited all of the members to review them and give input on what they liked or didn't like about different aspects of them. We moved from there. Obviously, one of the main focuses of the work is going to be the cost allocation, primarily capital cost allocation. So we looked at how the different districts handle that. There's a number of different formulas. There's a couple of districts that have common approach to that, but there's some with completely unique approach to that. So we looked at all of those scenarios. I built out a financial model with Excel where we basically looked at different scenarios on different capital cost allocation models. If you took the 2024 project cost, just for the sake of discussion, and fed it through different ways of allocating capital cost, how would that have affected different communities' assessments, either upward or downward? Which was pretty interesting because it was not all linear. There were some interesting results of that in terms of kind of who wins and who loses. It's inherently a very challenging process because in any agreement where the potential exists to change the funding formula, just by nature, someone will be better off and someone will be worse off. And that's just part of the inherent challenge of what we're up against, as well as obviously the need for a unanimous approval for any amendment to the regional agreement. So I think modeling it and kind of having some numbers to attach to that was important to have kind of an informed discussion. More recently, at the last meeting 2 weeks ago and at the meeting tomorrow, the primary focus at this point is to look at a working draft regional agreement. So from these 9 different samples plus Whittier's existing, so 10, I put together basically a complete working draft regional agreement with those things that seem to be, well, I won't even say what's controversial or not because I think it's too soon to say. I think it's fair to say that among the members of the RAC, I don't believe there's been a single issue that has been 11 to nothing support. You know, even those issues that we did a straw poll a couple of meetings ago, just as a moment in time to kind of take the temperature. It was not, we didn't attach communities' names to it. It was by design. It was anonymous. I handed out a form, had everyone fill it out, just with the idea of having, like, as of today, you know, what would you think about, for instance, what should be the quantum of vote to approve the operating budget? Should that be a simple majority? Should that be 2/3? Should that be unanimous? To amend the agreement, you know, majority, 2/3, just like a straw poll. There were some items where there was more than 2/3 support for one or another, but there were a number of issues where there was clear division and no clear majority, and there was not a single issue that I would describe at this point as a consensus issue. So that's okay, that's where we're starting, and we've known it was gonna be a multi-step process. No one had any expectation we'd come out in the first 2 months and say, oh yeah, we all agree. So I think that's been helpful, at least from my view, in defining what the key areas of disagreement are and what are the areas where there seems to be a basis where we could perhaps try to build consensus. So the next step was to create a draft agreement that was sent out. I put it up on the screen about 2 weeks ago just to kind of show people where we were going, but I didn't want to send it around until I really had time to kind of read it and reread it to make, the last thing I want to do is put out a draft that's like got key flaws in it, because that could create a lot of confusion or distrust, and that was not the goal. The goal was to put out a draft that is a starting point for the committee. So that was sent out on Sunday to everybody on the committee. That may have been further shared with some of you, which is fine. So tomorrow morning's meeting, we're going to be going through that with the intent to try to arrive at clarity on what are the issues that are we know what the key focus issues are going to be. It's the cost allocation. That's been clear right along. But there's other issues like method of appointment of school committee members, or quantum of vote to amend the agreement, or quantum of vote to pass budgets that there may or may not be a strong majority for that. So I want to identify what are those issues that there's a strong majority, if any. What are those issues that there's consensus, if any? Maybe there will. Maybe the name of the district. Maybe everyone can agree on that. And what are the issues that really there's kind of two or more clear camps where there's just clear division. And the way we've talked about at the meeting is to try to narrow the playing field to get to where ideally over the next 2 to 3 RAC meetings, which will be tomorrow, so April 15th, and again May 6th, and I do expect it'll probably go to a third meeting beyond that to come out of that with, my hope would be to have a draft regional agreement where we have 2/3 or more support for 80 or 85% of it. There's going to be issues that there's just not agreement on. I think we all know that. But if we can get to broad agreement on at least most of it, I think that will have been significant progress. And then, at some point in the not too distant future, I spoke to Maureen recently, and I think probably the June timeframe is realistic. That at that point, I think the committee would be preparing its written recommendations to the school committee. And as you may recall, in order for the RAC to make a recommendation of the school committee, it has to have at least a 2/3 support. So if like it's 6-5 or 7-4, that doesn't cut it. It's got to be 8-3 or better. So any issue that we can't get 8 or more communities to agree on will end up as essentially stalemate. So at some point in the not too distant future, probably June, we'd be sending a memo to the school committee on behalf of the committee, documenting kind of what we've done, how we've done it. This is what we largely agree on. This is what we don't agree on. And then it really will be up to at least in my view, it'll be up to the administration and the school committee on how to move forward from there. But I think in my view, it's been a really good process. We've had, for the most part, very strong attendance at the meetings. There have been a couple of people who haven't been able to make it because of scheduling, but I think we've had really good attendance and really good participation within the meetings. People seem really engaged in it, and I'm keenly aware that people have everyone's super busy, of course, so we want to kind of get to a conclusion in the next, I'd say, 8 to 10 weeks at the outside, so that by the end of the fiscal year, we have a really good written account of what seems to be the situation. And part of what I will be asking committee members tomorrow is to make sure before we have actual votes, because at this point it's all like straw poll kind of soft voting, before we have actual votes where it's gonna be, you know, community X thinks this, I'm definitely gonna be looking to the RAC members to affirm that when they cast those votes, they truly are as representative as can be of what their community thinks. And I think everybody comes to the table knowing that. That's why they were designated the representative. But I do think that, you know, if we're gonna be, or we are gonna be arriving at a written statement of what community's positions are, I know, for instance, in West Newbury, you know, the other member and I would bring that back to the select board before those votes. So we'd say, these are the questions, these are kind of what we think, but to get the community aware of that and involved with that conversation, so that those votes, that when they are taken, we can really rely on as being representative of the kind of will of the community, to the extent possible.
Great. Is there any questions, Mr. Jennings? Bernie?
Yeah, I'd just like to add a couple of words. First of all, to thank Angus for how much work he's actually done. And it is, I mean, this group is like a group of cats, whatever you call a group of cats. The RAC is a group of tigers, basically. This is not easy to manage.
I've never been called a cat.
You're a wildcat.
Well, you have-
You're a wildcat. There you
I'm
go.
not a cat.
So Angus has done a tremendous amount of effort to kind of structure the process that we've gone through. And very constructively, pretty objectively, not necessarily, as you wouldn't expect, not that I would agree with everything, but it has been fair, it has been open, it has been data-driven, and I would just compliment Angus on the amount of work and the productivity that's happened. We're still, he's more optimistic than I am in terms of getting some closure, but it's not for the lack of really the best intentions and skill in kind of bringing this group together. So it's compliments really to Angus. It's a long-winded compliment.
Thank you, Bernie.
Good, thank
That
you.
means a lot. Thank you.
I guess I'd like to second what Bernie just said. This has been a volunteer gig for Angus, and the amount of work and time that he has spent getting us to this place, I'm truly grateful, so thank you. Because I'm not sure we would have gotten here this quickly without your expertise, so thank you. And I think Bernie's right, not everybody has agreed about everything, but I think everybody agrees that we're gonna keep working and, you know, hopefully get us to some final point where we can just either say this is the best we can do, or even better, you know, we have a new agreement. So I'm really, I am optimistic. I feel like we have to be. I say all the time here at Whittier, we have people counting on us, and we have people counting on us to figure this out. Just thank you. Thank you, Angus. And if anyone didn't know, Angus was just appointed our new business manager for Whittier Tech, starting in August. So Kara's retiring. We're gonna miss her terribly. But Angus has been appointed our new business manager starting August 1st. So congratulations for that too. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, the next item on the agenda is gonna be the MSBA enrollment information. And I'm gonna turn it over to the superintendent, and she'll go through the document that we had in our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the enrollment. I know the last meeting we spent a lot of time looking at data, looking at enrollment, and then, you know, we met with MSBA. MSBA has their own kind of system to look at data. I believe you've all received that information as well. At this point, they are letting us look at a building of between 1280 and 1500. So we will look at both options. If we look at building a new building, we would look at both options. And then before you move into schematic design, you would choose, or the team here would choose, are we going with 1280 or are we going with 1500? And there would be numbers attached to both of those enrollment numbers. So I'm excited that, you know, there was a lot of talk at the last building project that they wanted more enrollment and more students, but with more enrollment comes more money. So, you know, we'll work through that process just like we've done everything else to this point with our school building committee and along with our school committee. They also looked at us opening up some new Chapter 74 programs and our viability programs. We are looking at possibly opening up criminal justice, environmental science, ISSN, which is information support, networking, robotics, and vet tech. Those are programs we're thinking about opening. We would start the process of opening up the Chapter 74 program and the application process, which is a pretty intense process. I will say the ISSN, we're looking with Northern Essex about hoping to get a capital skills grant for that, to get that program up and going, and the two of us, two institutions working together to make that happen. So there's a lot of work that's been happening. I'm excited about where that work is going, and the opportunities that are available for our kids. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Does anybody have any questions for the superintendent or comments? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So just for my own information, I remember reading the letter from MSBA, and I saw the note about the 6 potential new programs. It also noted that 2 might be going away. Do you know what those 2 are?
So we have closed design and visual, so it's a process to close those programs, design and visual and early education and care.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So those are related to the votes that were taken
Yes.
previously. All right, great. Because I remember when the discussion was happening that those were going to be going away. I thought there were 2 more.
Yeah,
So.
you can't just close the programs, you have to have a,
Phase out.
thank you.
Gotcha. And then the other question I had, so on the enrollment numbers, the 1280 versus the 1500, is it an either or? Are we allowed to go anywhere in between if we wanted to?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think so, right? I mean, I guess when we have our OPM, we can kind of go through that process. They generally say, like, look at this option or look at this option, but I think if the committee says, well, we don't like either one, we'd like to go in between, I think that they will make that work, but, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Well, really related to that question, I guess, was like, how would you compare this letter in response to the past one? It seems fairly similar.
It is,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions or comments on enrollment? Okay. The next item on our agenda is the timeline, and I'll let the superintendent again speak on that. I'm sure everyone will get a chance to look at it.
I think Mr. Leganis has been dying to talk about that.
Dying.
So
Well,
I'm
let him
gonna
go.
turn it
I-
over to
I'm
him.
ready to go.
Sorry, Mr.
This is his
Ganis.
thing.
I apologize.
So, in your packets, so we have 2 timelines, they're both the same, one is a little bit wordier. One of the meetings, I believe, I don't know if it was Mayor Rurak or, he had just said he likes the wordy one, so I kept 2 of the timelines. The one, in your packet is the less wordy. And what I'm doing is just, this is a working document. Whenever someone has suggestions, if you notice, I put a link, the link in 2026 there's the link to MSBA. And then the other add-on was, which date was it there? The feasibility, June 24th date that hopefully we're gonna be ready to rock and roll for that. So this is a working document. I have 2 documents and whichever one you prefer. The other one is a little bit more wordy, but other than that, it's just a roadmap that will continuously change, but it just kind of keeps us on course.
So, can I jump in?
Go right ahead.
June 24th, MSBA will be having their board meeting, and that's when we will officially know if we are invited into the feasibility study. Things are looking good, but we won't know until the exact date of June 24th at their board meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if anybody has any questions, or add-ons, I'm certainly capable of doing that.
Good, thank you, Mr. Leganis. Any questions for him? Comments? Okay. The next item is little total capital assessment. And there was a couple of figures we'll put in there.
So I'm gonna start. Our capital assessment went up $30,000 over last year for a total for all 11 cities and towns. Those costs are based on school-age children within the district. I'm gonna turn it over to Kara to discuss a little bit more about what we will be doing next year for capital improvements.
Thank you. We have 4 projects on the docket for our capital assessment next year. The first one is electrical plant panel replacements, and we have that at $80,000. We have original to the building electrical panels, and it is very difficult to run this building sometimes with the old systems. And Mr. Hardy's here if you have any specific questions. But it's not like you can change them all in the building at once, because the building has to be able to be run. So we can only do one at a time and try to do it at a time in a place where at least interrupts what's going on in the building. So you're going to see this on our capital plan probably for the next few years as we go through the school and try to get these done.
Can we make a comment on that?
Sure.
I think Mr. Hardy was nice enough to give us a tour, and we got a chance to kind of walk through and see that. I just thought it was important, everybody that took the time to come, and he did a great presentation that day. Very appreciative.
Thank you. Yeah, he is great. He knows what he do. He knows his stuff, and he knows this building.
Yeah. We have another question, Mr.
Tara,
Earl?
what's the 80,000 for 1 year?
Just for next year. That's the anticipated of what we think we can do next year.
That's without any problem.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it can go up and it can go down, as can any of
Won't
these.
go down much.
No, meaning something else may not be done or may be done differently, so you just, you know, it's kind of a, as Chris said, it's a working document, the capital assessment. Similar to what we talked about with electrical panels, the same thing with the classroom heating and cooling units. We have $75,000 assigned to that. That was also in this year's capital budget. And that's because, again, we have heatilators in the classroom, original to the building, and often our maintenance staff will have to go into a classroom, turn the heat on, middle of the day, they might get a call, it's too hot, they have to go back to the classroom, turn the heat off. They're not automatic because they are 53 years old, and so that takes a lot of time from our maintenance staff. But again, as we can get the units, as we can put them in classrooms without interrupting the class flow, and as time permits with the maintenance staff, we will continue to do that this year, and you'll probably see that again. The other is chiller repair. We have that as $210,000. The chiller is what keeps the parts of this building cold, and it has not been upgraded or repaired. I know, I can see Mr. Early laughing, the chiller. It's kind of a
The chiller
joke.
account.
The chiller account. And he has told me that it's time for us to do some sort of a repair for the chiller in order to keep it running well for the next, 5 to 7 to 10 years, whatever, we will be here. And finally, we continue to do upgrades and repairs to the wastewater treatment plant, and that is scheduled for $360,000 this year, and that is based on the OPM study that we had on the wastewater treatment plant last year, and they had a timeline, and so we looked at the timeline and said, okay, that's what we feel we need to do next year based on what they suggested. Just another note, even though these are the things in next year's capital budget, there are still things that we are working on this year, and sometimes they are things that we did not necessarily expect. We are in the process of having a trench dug over to the wastewater plant because we have to put in a new alarm system. So that was something that, we have money in this year's budget for wastewater improvements. That would be something that we would be doing this year. So it's an ongoing process. We will continue to have a capital assessment because while we hope to be in a new building in 5 to 7 years, we still have to make sure that this building runs so that we can teach our children here without interruptions as best as we can. We don't want any catastrophic issues, and we're trying to do everything that we can to make sure that that does not happen, and that is primarily because of Bob and his team, who I cannot thank enough for what they do every day.
Great. Are there any questions at all? Does anybody have any questions for Bob or anything we missed? Thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is new business. Does anybody have any new business or comments or questions? Anything?
Do you have an idea of when the next meeting's gonna be after this or no?
I would think closer to the June 24th date, when we know that we're definitely getting into the feasibility study.
Good. So early June. Okay. So Mr. Rorak.
I think it's once we start, once we're invited into the feasibility study, there'll have to be a subcommittee of this committee to hire an OPM. So we'll have to send out a RFS, request for services. We'll have to send that out. Tammy loves doing those. That's kind of Tammy's wheelhouse. We will send something like that out. I think one of the things that I feel is important is that we were left on our heels for the last building project, and we want to make sure that the first thing we do is look at what repairing this building would look like and how much that would be, and have a plan for that, and then move on to, in addition, then move on to building new here at Whittier, or building new at Northern Essex Community College. But I think first thing we need to do is have a really hard look of what we need to do here to fix this building, not only for if that's what the people end up wanting, but also for what we need to do over the next 5 to 7 years as well. So,
Mr. Jennings?
Maureen, I had forgotten to mention about the legislators meeting. Do you
Yeah.
want to tell where we're going with that?
So, I mean, part of the RAC is we really do feel like we need to have some legislators and have them understand what we're doing and the work that we're doing, and that if we do run into an issue where we're unable to move forward with a new agreement, how can they help us? How can we work together? Because this really will be a regional issue that we really need to take care of. Anything else you want to add to that, Angus?
We're trying to hone in on a date toward the end of May or early June. I think the second to last Friday in May or the first Friday in June are the two. And I think that the goal is that wouldn't just be a RAC, that would really be with school building committee, school committee members, kind of, and one of the clear takeaways from one of the RAC meetings, I think 2 or 3 meetings ago with the financial model, is in order for there to be a realistic political path to either a new building or a major renovation, there's going to need to be a major infusion of state money. Obviously, that's no surprise to anybody, but I think that the thought is that's going to need to go beyond MSBA reimbursement. And that's where political will, and we had a very promising meeting that the Lieutenant Governor hosted in, I think, March of 2024 that was very good, but to try to gauge what's the path to a lot of state money.
But also looking at foundation money and,
Yes.
and trying to look at all possible avenues that we could possibly do to support the project.
I'm sorry, Cory. Just to piggyback on Mr. Jennings' comment, probably, if possible, make it easy for legislators, like a Friday morning early, probably be the best time. And, before the Senate gets into their budget process. So I think sooner than later would probably be good. Sorry. Okay. Are there any other comments or suggestions for this evening?
Just one more. In front of you today is a newsletter. I put it in poster boards behind you if you want to take a look at it. This is something we are thinking that maybe would be a good thing to have at city council meetings and town meetings, so that when people are picking up information, this is one of the things they're picking up, so everyone has access to the most up-to-date information. So take a look through. This has been drafted about 100 times, and every time we find something else that we think we should add or take out. So if there's anything else, please let me know as soon as possible, because I think we are just about ready to go to print with this. And again, we have poster boards too, so I'll talk to the municipal leaders to say which would you rather, the paper copies or the poster boards or both. So we'll make it happen. Trying to get out as much information as we possibly can for people.
One good point, the boys lacrosse was out raising money, so I got a phone call about that.
Yeah.
Student from Haverhill, so a lot of positive things happen. I don't know if you put them up to call me or you gave my number. Maybe the principal did, but they got
Trying to
me.
mix it up.
Yeah, good.
Now we know who to call.
Get some money.
They got me, I was on vacation, so the young man got me. Okay.
What's that number again?
Call again, yeah.
What'd you sell?
Anyways, we have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Mary Ellen was gagging, so able to call me.
Guys, get some sandwiches and cookies, and please eat them.